All right, particularly I'm excited about this session. Or formally, let me just start by saying welcome to the last roundtable talk for 2022. And I want to thank every one of you for joining. If this is your first time, I want to say welcome. Basically, the roundtable talk is just an experience sharing platform where we get in facilitators who have vast experiences to just share their experiences. We'll just ask them a couple of questions, and I believe that these questions and these experiences they share will help us forge ahead in our pathway of life. Having said that, basically, today we have our guest in the house, and I just want you to appreciate him by just um, putting your hands together. And the way you do that on this call is just to type 1 1. I think 1 1. Just put your hands together by typing 1 1 in the chat box to appreciate our guest. Tonight we have Bobby Joachim with us, who will be speaking with us this evening. Just before we go ahead, I would like to tell you a bit about who he is. Bobby Joachim is a people and organization development consultant, leveraging his capacity as Nigeria's premier certified advanced professional coach in cultural intelligence. He's a distinguished fellow of the National Institute of Policy and Strategic Studies. He is famously called the Godfather. Amazing. He's famously called the Godfather. When I saw that, I smiled. All right. As a rising polymath in line with his true north of inspiring mental shifts in people. Now he's a people person. He's into capacity development, and I, for one, I believe he has so much to deliver tonight. And I just want you to take up your pen, take up your paper, and just write. And I believe his experience definitely will resonate with us tonight. And if you have questions, do not hesitate to just pen it down. When it's time for questions, we would call on you to ask your questions. And I want to believe it's going to be an interesting session. Now, the last roundtable talk we had was we were talking about mental health and all of that stuff. Today, we are talking about the journey. We're talking about the journey. We're talking about the journey, the challenges of 2021, and how lessons that we have learned. I think, for one, if you ask me, I think it is paramount. Now, for some persons, 2021, it's so many things to several persons. If I give you the opportunity to speak one after the other, I think we will have different versions of how 2021 have treated us, right? But having said that, it is not for us to draw back. No matter what the challenge has been, no matter what, whether you have succeeded or not, I believe there are always lessons to learn. Now, a sneak peek into 2021 and how it has been for you is paramount at all times to always know how to forge ahead. Um, it's okay to make mistakes. Now, if it has not actually been for you the way you have planned it to be, like I always say, your whatever you term success is a compendium of the various failures you've made, because when you fail at some point in life, you learn from that, right? And you make it better as you progress. Now, we'll be giving it up to for our facilitators to speak to us this evening. And before I progress, Bobby, I'd just like you to introduce yourself personally. I've said a bit about you to the extent of which I know, but I also like to let's hear from you. Who are you? Just tell us a bit about yourself before we dive into the conversation. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you so much, Mr. Jonah. Thank you for having me on this show. And I see a couple of people here. Thank you, every one of you, for tuning in, for being a part of the journey tonight. Interestingly, we're talking about the journey, and I find that very fascinating. First of all, let me be sure that you can hear me, that I'm not just speaking to myself because it's a virtual session. So if you can hear me, let me follow Mr. Jonah's format to say type 1 1 but now just type one. So let's do the one star. So who am I? My name is Bobby Joachim. Thank you. I can see the ones. My name is Bobby Joachim, and I'm famously called the Godfather. And my whole life journey is about inspiring mental shifts in people. And I do that by helping people think differently. One of the tools that I use is in coaching. So I do more of business coaching and life coaching for individuals. And I've done this for actively for about 6, 7 years, fully. The other times I would consider it as the moment when I was strengthening my skill set. And so I've done these, and I'm excited to be here to talk to you. No high grammar tonight. I'm just going to be very simple because this is a storytelling session. So I'm ready for all the gist, to give you all the gist. So here I am. Over to you, Mr.
Absolutely.
Jonah.
Absolutely. I think we are on the same frequency. I like that part. It's a storytelling session and we are ready to hear that gist. Now, we want to know how you got to where
Yeah.
you got to where you are today. Basically, you said it's been an experience of about it's a journey for of about 6 to 7 years, and I know that journey did not come without challenges, certainly. But I
Of
also do
course.
not want to digress from the focus we already have for tonight because I know a lot of persons are expectant. So
Yeah.
basically, I'd like to start by asking, right? Um, did 2021 actually go as planned for you? Did it go as planned? Because at the beginning of each year, like I remember clearly in 2020, December 2020, when I started the roundtable talk, for me, I just wanted to see how it would go, and what I tagged that session was repositioning for 2021. Basi, you can
Mm.
share the link so that people can actually go back to that session. I tagged it repositioning for 2021, and part of what I was saying was, the environment is more like a mold. So sometimes we tend to fit into that mold unconsciously, and the environment develops us into literally what it wants, not basically what we actually intend to be. So it takes a conscious effort for you to
Mhm.
come out of that mold, right? And actually become who you want to be, exactly what you were just saying. So my first question tonight is, did 2021 go as planned? Yes or no? However, how did you
Okay.
handle failures, disappointments, and your experience? So
No.
it's up to you. Go ahead.
No, no, and I'm going to talk about it. No, because I came
Great.
into this year with great expectations, and prior to this time, I've already written out my 10-year roadmap, what I was going to do from 2021 to 2030. So it was already outlined fully. And having done that, I knew I needed to take micro bits of that whole big goals and make 2021 just a step in that direction. So, for instance, in my roadmap for this decade is to attain to my doctorate degree, and that doctorate is not in the field that I originally had. So my first degree was in theology. I dropped out of the university when I was at 400 level. I was studying biotechnology, and so I dropped out of the university. I dropped out to drop in. I think I like that right. So I dropped out to drop in. Yeah, because my wife always reminds me to not leave it hanging that way. So I dropped out and I dropped into the person that I needed to be and the journey that I needed to take. And so coming into 2021, which is a question you're asking, I came in with micro bits of that big goal. So, for instance, the goal is to attain to my doctorate in this decade. So that gives me enough time to prepare for that. But I needed to come into this year in the area of business. I needed to come into this year with just a micro bit of at least attaining to my PGD and then working on my master's gradually. But I attained to my PGD in management from a prestigious university out of Nigeria, but I didn't go on for my master's. So that in itself still gives me some time, some room. So if I do that in 2022, I accomplish the master's, and then I can start pursuing for my doctorate, which is going to take about 4 or 5 years, depending on where I'm doing that completely. So it didn't go exactly as planned for that plan that I had. It didn't work that way. Again, I had a couple of businesses that I was optimistic that, boy, I would, the turnover from the business. When you're writing businesses, you're familiar with this, Mr. Jojo. When you're doing a pitch deck and a business plan, it looks like by the time I just plunge in, I do this, and you look at all the mitigations and all the risk analysis you do for your business plan and business, it looks like it's just perfect. I've got it figured out until the rubber hits the road. Then all the millions you were thinking should accrue to you are coming in trinkles, and you're wondering, all right, so where am I not getting it exactly right? And then you know that the market forces are entirely different from what you wrote on paper completely. So in those areas, I didn't have the expectation that I desired. But most importantly, it made me become a person, because on the journey of where you're going to, much more than the end is the means, how you're getting there and who you're becoming along the way. So I like what we're doing today because it calls for reflection. It's in a reflective mood. For you to advance, you need to retract, you need to retreat, you need to reflect. So if you have a catapult, those of you who have been used to a catapult or a sling, for you to actually use that sling and have more energy and force to thrust into the air, you need to pull it back. So what we're doing this evening is more of a reflection. It's more of us analyzing, saying, where did we miss it out? Who did we become in the process of even failing? And then how can we navigate completely? So I believe that, yes, the plans did not go out so well as I really wrote on paper, but then the person I became was more important for me. I didn't become a bitter person. I didn't become casual. I didn't become nonchalant. I regained focus. I was able to um, um, put up alternatives when the main plan was not going according to plan. So for me, that's the big deal um, along the way. So it's not just about failing or not attaining to the goals. It's about the person that I became along the way. Thanks, Jonah.
I hear you clearly. If I heard you clearly, or if I heard you correctly, you are zeroing in on the process. That the fact
Exactly.
that you did not get to your destination, you enjoyed the process. Now let's learn from that. The process is not always very sweet. Confirm, please, Mr. Bobby. The
Exactly.
process is
I
not
would
always
agree.
very sweet.
It's
Yeah.
painful. You like to abort it.
Mm, mm, mm,
Yeah,
mm. It's not always very sweet. And trust me, when you are going through that process, because at the beginning of the year, right, you already had a picture, a mental picture of where you actually want to be.
exactly.
Now, if my mind works the way every other person's mind works on this call, it literally means that when you are designing a process, or if you are designing that plan, at the top of your head, you're assuming, you are creating that picture. You are just telling yourself, you know what, immediately after that proposal, I'm going to submit it, I'm going to get 5 customers, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do that. And now at that point in time, the challenges, because you really do not know what the challenges will be, you literally do not really think. Yes, you might have done your risk analysis and all of that, like you have said, but you really cannot phantom how it's going to come, how it's going to hit you. Now at the middle of that journey, all of a sudden you just discover that, wow, everything I have planned, no one seems to be coming true. Right now, during that scenario and all of that experience, now it makes you, there is it something is being formed.
Mhm,
Something is being formed, and I think that's what Bob is trying to tell us this evening. But however, I'd like you to zero in on certain things so that we make it a little bit much more realistic. Now,
mhm.
what were those failures and disappointments that you experienced? Was it just that the what you penciled down on paper really did not materialize, or can you just zero down a little bit so that we can actually relate to what those failures and disappointments were?
Cool. I like that. So the stories will help a whole lot. So, in as I planned for the year, one of the things that happened to me when Jonah was reading my introduction, just a brief profile about me, he made mention about I'm Nigeria's premier cultural intelligence coach, and many of you may not know what that means. And I, to be very frank, when I came into this year, I don't know what it meant. So I attained to that status in this year. It was not in my plan. So here's how it happened. My organization, Tevuna Limited, we run trainings. And I just had a hint in the last 2, 3 years of what cultural intelligence might be like. And I added it as one of our core trainings in our organization. And I didn't really get any offer per se. I only had one offer in the past to do the training on cultural intelligence. And when I came into this year, so ICANN, Lagos ICANN reached out to me and said that they needed a training on cultural intelligence. And they proposed that, I think, around April or so. And so I said, all right, fine. I was going to run the training for them, and they wanted it to be about 2 credit points or something like that, in addition to their their points that their members would have. And I ran the training virtually. I couldn't get down to Lagos to run it, but I ran the training virtually for them. By the time I was done with that training, I started asking myself, is there a licensing body for this cultural intelligence? And the more I read about it, my mind just blew up that, wow, there's a whole lot more than I ever knew about cultural intelligence. So I started researching. I now reached out to the organization, we did a background check, we asked questions, we had several calls, and then they slammed me and said the certification is over $7,000. Am I am I ready to go on board? And I was like, okay, cool. Let's do this. So we started all the certification process, and that's how I got to where I am. So at the beginning of the year, for instance, I didn't write down and say at the end of this year, Bobby Joachim will become Nigeria's premier coach in cultural intelligence. It was not there. It wasn't there at all. But circumstances and opportunities created themselves. So on the journey of becoming, Jonah just made mention about also with regards to the process, being conscious of the process. I think that as part of the journey, every one of us needs to capture opportunities. Some things are not carved in stone, some things are not written. So it may not be your plan. It boils down to the ability to make decisions, like timely, prompt decisions that helps you to navigate through. So if that opportunity was presented to me and I said to myself, I don't need this, I just need to be normal and I just want to do my whole stuff. Where I am right now at the end of the year would not be a springboard. And I've gone on to earn from that whole certification process that I'm consulting for organizations on it right now. That's part of the thing that was not in my agenda. I can tell you a whole lot more. That was not part of my agenda, but right now, it has already become a full-fledged portfolio for me completely. I hope I did help you now.
Wow, absolutely, absolutely. Now, what I got from what you just said was the ability to reinvent in the midst of the storm.
Yeah,
That's just it, because it was not in your plan, right? But you got to a point where you just felt that that's an opportunity I need to cash in on, right? And
exactly.
you're able to. So for me, that is genuine, and I hope we're taking that down, because truly speaking, right, you actually, there are certain things that what we eventually become might not literally be what we have planned. But when you in the midst of the storm, like I've always said on the roundtable talk, there's always a need for you to do this step back 5 by 5 to reevaluate when you're actually in that storm. When you are not, when it's not clear, when you
Mm-hmm.
feel that it's not going the way as planned. I think that's the time where you need to just calm down and ask yourself certain questions. You take 5 steps backward and ask yourself certain questions. And I think that was what you just did there. You need to reevaluate. Should I go for this? How can I cash in on opportunity? Something you just keep. Now, let's never you ever say no to any opportunity that comes your way. Now, for me,
Exactly.
the rule
I
of
agree
thumb,
with
what
that.
I do with this, if you ask me, can you do this? The first thing I tell you is yes. As long as the first thing I tell you is yes. It's the fact that I cannot do it does not mean that I will not tell you that I cannot do it. I tell you yes, then I go back to think of how I can do it. It's either I do it myself or I get somebody that can do it to do it. It's as simple as that. Never say
Mm,
no to any opportunity that comes your way. And I think that came out clearly from what you have said. Thank you very much, Bobby. Now, let's take
yeah.
this a little bit further. Now, how did you ensure that you didn't get distracted? Now, that's a success story that you just shared. Now, you talked about $7,000. Now, that's a huge sum. If you convert that to naira, 7 times 5, that's about 3.5 billion you paid for that certification. Thereabout, am I correct?
Exactly.
Now, I don't
Much
know.
more because
I know,
dollars
I
was
know you
more.
are the godfather. I know you are the godfather, and godfathers are always very, very wealthy. But trust me, I don't know. I'm not very sure of if that was a challenge for you pulling through that certification. Now, so what I want to know now is, how did you ensure that you didn't get distracted by success you recorded throughout the year? Now, because some people, now for me, I think if I am able to achieve a particular milestone, right, that becomes a challenge for me because I know I have to succumb, I have to go above what I've achieved. So now, how did you ensure that you didn't get distracted during all of this?
So I have a premium pillar for my own life completely. And when people hear the simple statement of inspiring mental shifts in people, it sounds like a blanket statement because they don't understand how it's weighty for me. For me, when I recall my life work, which is inspiring mental shifts, I want to ask myself, how do I do that in individuals and organizations? What tools do I need? So
Mm,
as I reinvent myself, I want to reinvent staying true to my identity. And I hope somebody understands that. I reinvent staying true to my identity. I don't reinvent with comparison. I don't reinvent with competition. I reinvent myself and I take the challenge up based on who I am, the opportunities that are coming around me, and I keep putting that layer upon layer upon layer. So, yes, at the time that I was asked, to be very sincere, when I was told that this is what it would cost, and that was subsidized for me, to be very frank. So it's not like the exact amount, it was subsidized for me at that point in time. So when I paid 7,100, at first, when I calculated it with the dollar rate, it was, I was blown off in my head. I was like, for a certification, to be candid, that's the highest certification I've ever paid for. I don't think I paid that amount for all my masters, my whatever. I didn't pay I didn't pay that amount of money. Like, why would I carry for a certification that quote and unquote Nigerians don't really know the worth and the value of that certification? So it was a challenge, it was a dilemma. But I saw that as an opportunity to climb up further, to distinguish myself in the market from the noise, that no matter where I stand, so I can stand with people right now, my niche can be the cultural intelligence. There's no how we are talking about that in this industry, the training industry, human capacity building industry, that when it comes to cultural intelligence, things that has to navigate around diversity, equity, and inclusion, that you would not make reference to me or seek my consultation ideology on completely. So I looked at it from that identity. Who am I? I'm here to inspire mental shifts in people. And I know how that cascades down for me completely. I work with organizations, I work with individuals. So I told myself, this is an opportunity for me to reinvent myself, but not reinventing in abstract. I was reinventing, still staying true to the core of who I am, my identity. So I had to ask questions. So, how do you keep reinventing yourself? How do you enjoy the process? It's for you to stay true to your identity. So it boils down to the fact that if your identity is not crystallized for you will find out that you'll be rolling with a pack. One of my mentors said to me, he said, never join people in the rat race, because at the end of the rat race, when the person finishes the race, you are still a rat. So no matter what it is, you are still a rat. So never join the rat race. You live your life and stay true to your identity. When that is clear to me and I'm able to ask those honest questions, then I proceed on the journey of making such an investment for myself.
thank you very much. Now we're going to stay put on that point which you made mention of reinventing yourself. Now, actually, because of my career, I actually got to a point where I actually needed to do that. Basically, that part of what, in fact, and I've not stopped reinventing myself. If I can, if the, so at every point I get to, I have to look at what next can I do, because if you don't keep working on yourself, if you don't keep looking into the future to see what the future holds, basically you could just wake up one morning and just discover that you're no longer relevant in the space. So that's
Mm.
something that. So I just want us to stay on that point a bit, because as I posted something in the course of the week, and part of it was people waking up, they go to work, they make money, but at the end of the day, the only fulfilling thing from that job is the fact that they just make money out of it. They don't enjoy it. It's not satisfying. It's not fulfilling. They're not building relationships out of it. There's nothing to it. The only thing that is satisfactory from that is just the fact that they go home, their bills are being paid. While there are some others that they enjoy what they do. I think we need to get to that point where we need to, like, just like you said, stay focused on your identity, but however you progress in your skills and career. Can you just talk about how we can actually reinvent ourselves?
So I like to share a story in this regard. Fascinating story. So in my journey as a coach, I spoke about the fact that this crystallized for me a couple of years ago. And I will be very frank. I was at the point of my life where I was frustrated. I knew that I had more to deliver. I knew I had the modicum of success, and people around me were all aspiring to be like me, to be focused, disciplined like I was, and energetic. But within me, I knew there was more to me. So my first degree, I had told you that I dropped out from the university. So dropping out from the university, I went into the seminary and I did a 4-year course in the seminary. So logically, that makes you a pastor, and not just a pastor. That also gives you a sense of limitation. That the people you speak to are not necessarily in the marketplace, even though you might have them as members of your
Yeah.
church. But you discover that your lingua, your experiences, your education, your exposure is within the four walls of the church if you're not careful. And so, what happens in the world, you cannot find a corresponding knowledge and insight from what you know to transcend into other areas of life. So you become limited. Someone's talking about football, for instance, or business, and then you cannot have a steady conversation because you don't know what's happening in that space. And so I knew at that point in time that I needed to transcend, I needed to reinvent myself. And it was not just a desire for fame. I knew that there was more to me than just sitting down with church folks. Nothing wrong with them, but I knew I had more to do, that I had clients who were outside of the church, and I needed to be able to speak their lingua without judgment. I needed to be able to have a conversation beyond the cultural barriers, beyond the ethnic barriers, beyond the religious divides. I needed to be able to reach those people. So I started thinking, what can I do? What can I do? And it was at that point in time I said, adding up all the things that I've done in my life before. And then I said, okay, I was going to go into management consulting. I didn't even start out to be a coach. It was just by people calling me that by virtue of my work. And people who have been in that space found out that what I do was really coaching, like the genuine coaching, not visibility coach or confidence coach, but the real coaching work for people to see transformation in the lives of people. And so I sat down and I needed to reinvent myself at that point in time. But it was depressing, I must tell you the truth, because I looked at myself based on the physical criteria that someone can use to reinvent himself. So what can you do? I looked at myself. Do you know how to paint? No. Just the skills that people talk about that you need. Do you know how to fix a car? No. Do you know how to fix electrical stuff? No. Did you study engineering? No. Did you study banking? No. Did you study chemistry? No. Did you study this? Did you study that? Did you study this? Do you have this? Do you have that? So I felt very useless. I live in a city where people are dominantly in entertainment. So people, literally every young boy on the street in Jos knows how to play the guitar or knows how to play a musical instrument. They are singers. Their voices are like angels. The cherubims and seraphims can just bow down before these guys when they are singing completely. And I didn't have any of that. So you can feel, I felt very, let me use the word I felt in that year. I felt like an economic waste. to be candid. So this journey of reinvention, sometimes it starts with chaos. That's what I'm also trying to say to you. The journey of becoming someone that is meaningful starts with chaos. So if you're listening to us tonight, it's not just that we sat down and we came to the point where we are just all proper and prime and perfect and calculated. It started out of chaos, and it is okay for your life to be in chaos. What is not okay is for you to not build resilience, to not join a community, find a support system that provides clarity for you on what you can do. How did I navigate out of that? I needed to sit down with myself. I shut down. I had a personal consultation with myself. Some of you folks can be so busy that you're not staying true to your identity. And life can be very engaging from point A to point B to point C. You will literally have no time to sit with yourself. That's why this festive period gives us an opportunity to sit back and reflect. Who am I? What am I doing? What are my aspirations? And if time permits me, I'm going to share with you a 5 framework that I think the people here would find helpful as they plan, not just for 2022, but for the coming years. So coming years. And so I sat down with myself. I had meetings. I shut down my phone, literally. I blocked my mind from things. It was not a time of fasting and prayer, because sometimes you can go all mystic. And I'm not stopping you from fasting and praying, but I'm saying sit with yourself. God gave you brains. Sit with yourself, evaluate, what do I have? And how does this connect to who I am and who I want to become? For some of you, your purpose or your identity will be released to you with all the angels standing near your bedside and saying, hallelujah, this is your purpose. For some of you, it will happen for you that way. For some of us, it didn't happen. We came to reflect and gain confidence after clarity. So when you gain clarity, the next step is you need to gain confidence, because in that moment, people would say to you that you are foolish. In fact, to yourself, to sound foolish. Imagine you sitting with somebody and people in all this age of elevation pitch, people sit down with you and they say, well, I help small business owners to manage, make, prosper their money. And they say very fine cliches. And then you are looking at yourself like, all right, so what's my life about? I'm not yet started. It can really be frustrating at that point in time, but start with the chaos. With the chaos, you gain clarity. With the clarity, confidence will come, and then you pursue completely.
Wow. Wow. Thank you very much. You know, that
Yeah.
5 steps, you're going to share it because I think we all need it here. You're going to share those 5 steps. But I think what came out clearly from what you just said is I like the part where you talked about you shutting down, right? And you were doing like a soul searching to really find out. Now, trust me, um, I have a course I'll be taking in January, right? And I think I'll make it available to everyone here. It's what I've called a peak performance masterclass. Now, and part of the objective of that course is to help people actually identify who they truly are. Because trust me, Bobby, now there are a lot of persons, right, who see. Now, I'm not talking about children, I'm not talking about teenagers, I'm talking about adults. They really do not know who they are. You see, that's that sense of identity. Now, when we're talking about who you are, we're not talking about when I ask you who are you, and you tell me I'm a doctor, I'm a lawyer. No, that's not what. Who are you actually? What's your true identity? And that sometimes you cannot really just get by. It's not about what you studied. Who you are is not about your true identity. Is not about what you studied. It's not about it is about you. Now it comes from you looking deep within yourself and knowing your main purpose in life. And it comes with a whole lot of it's like you said, sometimes it could come from the angels coming to tell you who you are, but literally for some other persons you really need to do that soul search. Just sit down, shut down, and look within and ask yourself some deep questions. And part of what you said again was I think what I got from what you were saying was you had a strategy session with yourself. That's clearly what it is. That was basically a strategy session you had with yourself, just trying to identify your purpose, trying to identify how you need to forge ahead, knowing fully well that where you are at the moment, it's not just working. And for me, that is premium and genuine. Thank you very, very much for that. Now, part of what you also said was it is okay to be in a chaotic situation. What is not okay is for you to remain in that situation. So if you're in a chaotic situation, all well and good, but do not remain there. Find a way out of it. No matter how 2021 has been challenging, it may have been chaotic. Like some people have said, this is Buhari's Nigeria at the moment. Yes, whatever it has been. Now, this is a period. This is the period whereby you need to sit down with yourself and ask yourself, based on what I've learned, how do I forge into 2022? Thank you very much, Bobby, for that. Now, we'll take it a step further. Now, we want to learn from you. Now, what were those lessons you have learned? Now, from the successes, the challenges, what are the valuable lessons you are taking with you into 2022? It could just help somebody out here this evening. Thank you.
My greatest takeaway from this year is that people matter. As simple as that is, people really matter. And I mastered another layer of communicating with people honestly. And no matter what we want to achieve, it's important for us to know that it's people that will help us to achieve those things. As much as people speak about the fact that your rise can or your downfall can be about a man or a woman, let's not go all the gender right now. But in the context to use this, I focus on the positive. That doesn't mean that I abhor or neglect or speak about the fact that it's not possible for evil to exist. No, I just want to put my mind on the positive. And I don't go about sharing, don't trust no one, fear people, all the stories that all the kind of bloggers in Nigeria can carry and say, it's the mother's son that betrayed this person. And you don't know how damaging those things can be to your soul. And so I have discovered that people matter. I have a strong team that I work with. They're my staff, but I don't necessarily call them my staff. I call them my team members because they are not working for me, as it were. They are working with me. And so in the office, in my relationship with them, I've learned to go over and above for people completely to ensure that they live out their own lives, not just in my organization, but that's how I function even as a parent, even as a husband. I've discovered that everything that I want to be and I want to become is resident in people. So if you are a practitioner of the Christian faith, many of us can say when God says yes, nobody can say no. That is a limited statement. God can say yes, and then people can become the roadblock. So imagine now that, let me share in this. At the beginning of this year, Jonah, I didn't know you. I think it's important for us to tell the people that we're just connecting at this point in time. At the beginning of this year, I didn't know Jonah, but someone put in a good word about me and then connected and think he's here today. Olalikon, I think, is around here. But he put in a good word and Jonah connected, did a, did a connection with me. And then here we are today. We're starting a relationship. This is the beginning of much more things. And in 2022, we're going to be running sessions together. We're going to be doing a lot of things together. But this is just the beginning. And so for me, the greatest takeaway for me is that people matter. Did people hurt me this year? Oh, so well. I got bruises. But through it all, I learned that the true understanding that love covers a multitude of sin became functional and operational in my life. That I found that regardless of how hot I was considering the fact that this person might not be okay today, might not be fitting for me today, but in the days to come, we can have something. And how did I put that? Let me append the story to this again, because we talked about the fact that we're telling stories. So I had like part of my staff strength this year declined by like 2 or 3 people. 3 people. At the point in time, they had to go. They had to leave our team. One of them didn't leave in appropriate condition. In fact, we greeted in the evening. She was at the office. Then the next morning, she didn't come to work. So the HR reached out to her and said, hey, where are you? Her phones were not going through. So called her sister to just be sure that she's okay because we didn't see her in the office. So we're wondering, is all well? By 4 o'clock in the evening, we saw an email from her that she has resigned. So it was like, okay, so what happened? Because we're all cool as at yesterday before we left the office, And that's how this lady left us, like hanging. she just left us hanging. Between Friday, we left. Over the weekend, by Monday, we had that experience. And then that's how she left our workforce. And last week, then she came back and we reconciled, corrected everything. And I just felt cool. Was I feeling hot at that point in time? Yes, I did. I felt so bad. I felt like, why would she do this, regardless of the work culture that we have created in our organization? It's okay if you want to go, but there are procedures. You don't just wake up and do those kind of things. And I have an open door policy as their boss. You can walk into my office and say, this is what exactly. So you can tell the different emotions I had at that point in time. I felt like, am I not good? Am I still, no matter how I'm speaking, am I hypocritical? Am I really a team player? I was reflecting, I was thinking a whole lot. And the lady left us. Long story short, 2 weeks ago, we closed office on the 3rd of December. But 2 weeks ago, I called all of them that have left our organization this year. And I began to just talk to them. Hey, how you doing? What's happening with you? I've spoken with them intermittently before, but I called them just to tell them, thank you for the hours you put into our office operations this year. Even though you're not with us at this point in time, I really do appreciate that you were part of us at one point in time. And regardless of the circumstances that needed you to go, we like you to know that you're still a part of the family, you're still a part of our workforce. And if there's anything you need me primarily to be for you or to do for you, feel free to reach out. Man, when I did that, there was some element of pride in me. Let me tell you the truth. I was feeling like, why should I call them? For what? Why should I really call them? Should they have gone? They have gone. End of the year, we didn't do anything. At least I'm good in my own place. No. But part of that philosophy I've learned this year is that people matter. And guess what? Just before we started this call, that lady that left that way, that was among the people that I called, she just sent me a message this evening, and she just said to me, thank you so much for that call 2 weeks ago. It really meant a lot to me. Just before this call started this evening on WhatsApp. And I saw that message. And you can tell it is not just about the certification that I have in cultural intelligence. No, it is about the fact that people matter. Your rising to all the aspirations you desire next year is hinged on people. Thank you.
Wow, wow. Thank you very much. Awesome. People matter. I think there is no man is an island basically, and no matter who you are today, it's always traceable to one person or the other. Anybody, it's always you can always trace it. Every billionaire on earth today can always trace his or her story to one person that just made that defining moment in his or her life. It could ever be your father, your mother, a mentor, whoever. There's always, you can always trace one person in your life that actually made that difference in your life. So that takes us to the next question, Bobby, and it's going to be, what are those defining moments in 2021? Just one or two there, but because I know there are a whole lot of persons here that might want to ask questions, that might also want to make one or two contributions. So if you have anything that you would like to say, just signify by raising up your hand. We're going to give you room for that. Normally, the roundtable talk is just an hour session, but we can extend a little bit today, just to add about 10 or 15 minutes there. About this is the last session for the year, so we'll take note now of those that will raise up their hands for questions and contributions. You can just raise up your hand while Bobby just tells us about the defining moments in 2021. So, what are those defining moments in 2021?
All right. So, do you mean 2021 or we're looking forward now?
Uh,
2022.
okay, basically, yes, I also want you to talk about what we need to do, right, to prepare ourselves for 2022, basically. But I just wanted to share what are those wow moments in 2022, just one, so that we can talk about 2022 while we expect people to raise up their hands for questions and contribution.
Okay. So, let me coin it this way.
Okay.
I've been playing around with certain things in my head ahead of 2022, and it's very basic. It's I like to teach in a simple format, and I've been playing around with three words that people play around: knowledge, understanding, and wisdom. I've been playing
Mm,
around with these things in my head, and I've discovered that for some people in 2022, you don't necessarily need new knowledge. And I made a post on Facebook about this not too long ago. You don't necessarily need new knowledge, like something new to just hit you. Some of you have sufficient to take you on the journey you're about to go for. You just want to spend the remaining 5 days of this year to reflect, what do I even know? Because knowledge is simply, what information do I possess? What do I have? What do I know? What gives me an edge in any way? So it can even be about tailoring, it can be about fashion, it can be about beauty, it can be about any kind of industry. But what knowledge do I have? Because that's the edge that you will have in the coming year. And so most of us here don't necessarily need new knowledge, like something new, like go to a new conference and like, oh wow, I never knew about Johari's window. I never knew about the Porter 5 models. I never knew about XYZ. I never knew about that. It's not necessarily what you need to migrate to understand it. What that simply means is distilling the information you have and contextualizing it. So I know about fashion. How does this help me right now? How does this probably become a business for me? How does this become something that I need to journey on further? So I'm good in communications. I'm good in content development. I'm good in capacity building. I'm good in coaching. I'm good in whatever field you are in. That's good knowledge. But you need to migrate to understanding, which is simply distilling that information. And again, it comes back to you being clear and spending some strategic moments with yourself to be able to analyze this thing. How does this work for me? How can I use this information? So what? I graduated with engineering. That's fine and good. How does this progress further? I'm graduating with engineering next year or medicine. How is this going to help me completely in the coming year. That's where understanding begins to come to you. And then wisdom is simply the when. When do I strike? When do I deploy this information? Sometimes people are knowledgeable, sometimes they have an understanding, but they're in a room where they are supposed to talk and then they don't talk. Or they're in the moment where opportunity is passing them by, there's a proposal that they need to send in at a time, but they don't do that. Just keep quiet and feel like, oh, well and good, what's gonna be is gonna be. In 2022, as you reflect and prepare for the coming year, I want you to be able to ask yourself, what do I know? How does this apply to my life and my context? And when should I start deploying this? If you do that, you've already started the framework, which I spoke about. Jonah, do I have some time to talk, like 5 minutes, about the
Yes,
framework if people want
yes,
that?
go ahead.
All right.
Go ahead.
So let me tell you about the framework for creating a very profitable year, and not just 2022, but any year of your life, because you may not meet me thereafter, but keep this in your head and thank Jonah for it. So the first thing that you want to ever do is to start with why. In coaching, we ask people to question their motives, to question their intent, to question what they say they want to do. So they ask questions. They will keep asking why, why. Why do we ask those questions? We need to clarify what you are doing, because everybody's why is different. In legal world, we have what is called actus rea and the mens rea, and it's simply with connotation to what somebody did, the objective of why somebody did something. So I can kill somebody right now, literally, like commit murder, and I'll be acquitted. The reason why I'll be acquitted in an ideal scenario, let's put it that way, why I'll be acquitted is simply based on the fact that my motive was probably not for manslaughter, but in self-defense. If it can be proven that my why of killing that person was for self-defense, then it is normal for me to be acquitted. Likewise, the first question or the first framework that you need to do is to start with why. I want to make money in 2022. Why do you want to make money in 2022? Because some of you just want to pepper your village people, and you need to be very frank with yourself. If that why is not clear and doesn't have any accord with your value system, then that's a problem. So start with why. Number two, define your what. And sometimes people say, I want to make money. That sounds like a what, but it's not smart. It's not specific. It's not measurable. It's not attainable. It's not realistic. It's not time bound. How much do you want to make in 2022 or the years to come? How much do you want to make? Define the what. Let it be specific. I want to make 150 million naira by September 2022. Fantastic. That's much more appropriate. So number two, define your what. Number three is for you to strategize your how. So it's fantastic for anybody can sit down and say, I dream of making 150 million by September. That's very good. But how do you want to make it? Strategize your how. That's the third framework. Strategize your how. How am I going to go about it? Is at this point in time that you define your sources of revenue, your sources of income, your revenue generation model. How does this work? If you want to expand the business to increase the profit margin in that business, how am I going to go about X, Y, Z? So strategize the how. And these things require time. Number four, identify your who. I'm giving it top of my head. Identify your who. Because you are not an island, you cannot achieve the things you want to do alone. You've got people in your life that needs to really, you need to really give them that opportunity to be a part of your journey. And some of them you may not know, so you must give room, you must be flexible for God to add people along your way. My journey in life has been made easy. Interestingly, one of my advisory board members in my company, Mr. Lufemi Bambo, is here this evening. He's on the advisory board of our company, and he's here. So I'm excited that he's listening to me. And I think I'll go back for reports 2022. Anyway, so but strategize the how. I mean, I said strategize. No, identify the who. I'm mixing them up. Number one is start with why. Number two, define your what. Number three, strategize. the how. Number four, identify the who. Who do I need to help me? The reason why I raised the advisory board member this evening is because on my journey of evolution, on my journey of reinventing myself, of reinventing the company, I can't do that alone. I need their insight. I need their experience to come up on board. So who do I need? And let me put a caveat here. Some of you have people around you that you are despising because you're looking for Tony Elimolu and you don't know him and you want to waste your time going to look for him. It's not wrong to have big dreams, but are there people around you that have some experience that you can start growing with? How about starting with them? How about pitching out to them? So identify the who. And the fifth thing is celebrate your when. It's so amazing that our life is so focused, face forward, that we're just going. We don't have pause moments to celebrate milestones, memories, and moments to say, okay, hey, you started out saying that you want to make 150 million at the beginning of this year. This is June, and you've been able to hit 100 million benchmark and bottom line. Wow, that's something to celebrate. And by celebrating, I'm not saying that you should do Dorime and go and log down somewhere. The small money you are making, you now say, Dorime, let them pump things for me. That's not what I'm asking you to do. But celebration is relative and it's for you to define how you want to celebrate. But it's good for you to celebrate because that becomes the motivation. Children function by reward system. So you say to a child, when you finish your food, I'm going to give you chocolate. And the child is like, should I finish my food? He's like, whoa, so I'm going to finish. Even you as an adult, you have the pain and the pleasure points in your brain. It means that your pleasure point, your pleasure point needs sometimes some level of dopamine to just feel good with itself. So what is it that you would consider as a thing of celebration for yourself? It might be a vacation, it might be shopping, it might be whatever it is that you want to give yourself. It might be to buy a car or whatever it is, just because you've hit a particular milestone on your journey. These five things are important for you to navigate through 2022 and the years to come. Thanks, Jonah. I've been speaking.
Thank you very, very, very much. That was awesome. That's awesome. That's the best way I can define it here. That's awesome. Thank you very, very much. Now, we have a question for you, and I'd like us to take that question. And the question is this: I would like to ask as regards reinventing your true identity. How do I link back to say I want to reinvent myself for a progression and not a retrogression or depression? So basically, I think what the person is saying is, how do I sit back to begin to think and not fall into depression or retrogress at the end of the day? How do I prevent that from happening when I sit back to look within myself? I think that if I understand you clearly, Chika, is that what you mean?
Okay, so
Yeah.
fantastic question. Thank you, Chika, for that question. Um, let me say here that it's so easy for us to fall into depression for the things that are not working in our lives. And sometimes on face value, we might just say it's not working and things are not going according to plan. And just before you know, your mood is changed, you're facing a tough time, you're feeling like giving up, you're feeling like these things are not working. I'm really out of options at this point in time. That's the default nature that happens. And one of the things I really, really like to encourage you, Chika, to do so that you progress is for you to have quiet moments. I'm not trying to make these religious or spooky, but sometimes there's too much noise around us as individuals. Perhaps if I was in a coaching session with you, I'll be able to ask more specific questions to helping you navigate through whether it is a moment of retrogression or progression and the specific area that we're considering. So remember, the solution I'm providing right now is just like one size fits it all. I may not be able to speak specifically to your issue, but one of the things I recommend is to spend moments. And when you spend moments alone with yourself, I'm not saying become a recluse, lock the door for 10 days, your neighbors are looking for you and your whole life is passing. But there are moments, you see, our life is only going to have reflective moments. Before we sleep in the night, something happens to us. We just have the whole day flash before us. We remember, oh, I didn't do this, I did that, I'm supposed to do this. Those moments are teachable moments for your brain. So it's important for you to just sit back and reflect. All right, so yeah, I don't think I did so well in this area, but don't stop there. Start thinking ahead. What can I do to make this better? If you start thinking that way, you'll find that more options will rise rather than just blocking your mind and saying, well, there's nothing more that can happen here. I feel like I'm retrogressing. I would like to encourage Chika that while you are able to identify the issue on ground, start thinking, what can I do? The moment you start thinking, what can you do? You will feel a vibe of energy within you that you start seeing. You see, what keeps people alive is that they have a hope of a better tomorrow. People literally give up when they feel like there's no hope. It's bleak. I can't see any option available for me. But when their mind kicks in and your mind is elastic, when your mind starts kicking in to say, what options are before me? Oh, I can still call this person. I can still put one more phone call. I can sit down and have a conversation with this person. I need to go first thing in the morning to speak with this person on how I feel. I need to pitch out to this person. Those are options that your mind can start thinking about for you to consider progress. I do hope Chika helped you, but if you're not so clear, feel free to reach out to me. I'm on Facebook. My name is Claire. And anyway, Jonah can give you the link to me. So find it.
All right, thank you very much, Bobby. I think let me just add a little, add some points to what you've
Please
said.
go ahead. Yeah.
Now, I wrote down some time back. I think I saw it somewhere, and the statement says, "When you take one step towards your vision takes multiple steps towards you," and that is in
I love
sync.
that.
Yeah, it's in sync with the last thing you just said, right? Now,
Yeah.
when you now, what I think the challenge we have most times is when we go into that mode to self-reflect. Most often
Mm-hmm.
at times, you know, the mind can be tricky if you've not been able to master the power of the mind, which is a tool I think God has given us to be able to get out of situations most times. Because
Yeah.
if you can overcome it in your mind, then the rest is easy, even if it doesn't happen in the next 5 years, right? Just be sure that it's still going to happen. Now here's what happens. You go into that mode, and the first thing that hits you is you begin to reflect and complain. You allow your mind begin to tell you how what you should have done that you did not do. Now, instead of opening up your mind to those options you just talked about, now you need to be able to redirect your mind and ask yourself the right questions, like you just said. What are the options available to me? What do I do? Yes, it has happened. Yes, I've made mistakes. Yes, this and this. Now, when you go into that mode, it is not a time for you to begin to think of what you should have done. No, it has passed. You cannot correct it. It is now the time for you to begin to ask yourself, yes, it has happened. What can I do going forward? Now, the moment you are able to bring yourself to that point and ask yourself those questions, that is it. Your mind begins to open up to possibilities. Now it connects the dot. Okay, what can I do? All right. Yes, just like you said, I can still make that phone call. Or what can I do? Oh, I can still write that book down. Oh, what can I do? I can still do this. I can still do that. And before you know what's happening, you are getting ideas. As long as you make that move to make one step towards where you are going to, you discover that it begins to draw, it pulls you. There's something I read some time back in the past. It's called the psychosomatic pressure. Whereby sometimes, let's not even go into that, where you can Google it and look at it, so that it doesn't look as if I'm going into some form of mystical stuff. But just read about the psychosomatic pressure. You can do that after this session. However, quickly, I don't know, do we have other questions? Do we have other questions? Do we have other questions? Other questions? Let's quickly look at that. Let me see. There's some comments here. Okay, Bobby, you're a good teacher. It's a practical session and it's quite easy to apply. It's quite easy to apply. Okay, great.
Thank you. Thank you.
That's a comment for you. All right. Any other question? Any other question or comment or contribution? Just quickly raise up your hand. It's the top of the hour already. It's normally an 1 hour session. Do you have any question? Do you have any contribution? Do you want to say something? Do you want to add to all that has been said before we wrap it up? We call it a day from here. I'll still go back to Bobby to give us his conclusion and final comments. Okay, there's something here. Okay. Edison, do you want to say something? Okay, Edison, I want you to just say one or two things. Okay, Chika is saying, I discover sometimes when I take 5 steps back, it feels I have lost years. Oh, wow. Do you want to say something about that, Bobby?
So I've reached out. I've told Chika
Okay,
to come through you.
okay, okay. All right,
And
great.
just to
Okay.
add up, Jonah, I love what you mentioned about asking the right questions, and
Mm, mm,
that's very important. You
mm,
see, I've discovered that we are getting wrong answers and wrong vibes and wrong expectations because we're not
mm,
asking the right questions.
mm,
And it's important for us to know how to ask questions. And
mm,
it's not something we typically know how to do as Africans.
mm,
Um, we have been boxed into a place where we are conditioned. So there's a preconditioning that happens in our mind as we continue to grow up. You kept talking, someone says, shut up, don't talk, this is not how to talk. So in and out, we have not learned how to ask questions, not to talk about asking the right questions. So you hear somebody sitting down and then you're wondering, okay, just ask the right question. If you ask the right question, you will get the right answer completely. So
absolutely.
it's important, and that's what coaches literally do. To be very frank, any true coach you see that sits with you, he's not giving you answers. He's only helping you to ask the right questions. Because if you are able to answer the right questions, you arrive at the right answers, you own the process, and of course, the outcome will be beneficial to you completely. So I love that. I
Oh,
love that for what you raised. Thank you, Jonah.
all right. Um, okay, all right. We have a comment for you. Okay, that's a comment. Thank you very much, Dami. Let me see. Okay, so Edison, do you want to say? Okay, there's a hand up. Did I say hand up? Oh yes, Charles. Charles, you want to ask a question or make a contribution? Go ahead, please. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much. I'm super excited about how Bob is making clarification and we're getting you loud and clear from Kenya.
Oh,
I'm quite
thank
excited
you,
to be
Charles.
part of this discussion. And the training session has been so exciting and it's so delightful to have Bobby on board. Definitely, I'm able to know who I am now, what I want to do, what I need to learn. I just have two questions to Bobby. One, how does you ensure that you create systems that govern people around you to achieve their goals without losing their identity and purpose? And secondly, what message can you send to some of us who want to take their lives, their business to the next level to ensure that we clear a balance between the future and the past based on the reflections on what has happened this year, especially this stress and this content?
Okay.
Did you get that?
Okay. So yes, I got it. Two questions.
All right,
Number
great.
one, he's asking um how did you just skip me? Hold on. Just keep my head.
Yeah, a system around governing people.
A system, yeah, a self-governing system that helps to stay true to identity. And then number two, with regards to the framework for preparation for next year. I hope I got that correctly. All right. So for the first question, it's so easy. Thank you, Charles, for all the way from Kenya. It's so good to connect with you. And so the first question, I believe strongly that one of the things that helps people is to get yourself in an accountable situation. And some of us are not accountable. You are the prime minister of your soul. And while that is good, you also need checks and balances. Sometimes we suffer a lot just because we are not accountable and we feel all alone. I've created a very strong accountable network for my life. Sometimes it's hard, especially when you're growing and people are responding to you directly. People are loving you. People are looking at you like the godfather that you are. So it looks like all things originate from you and all. It's important to create an accountable system. And if you don't have, probably get yourself a coach. I'm glad that you're on this call and you can connect with people like Jonah. I've read most of his work. He's amazing, and you can connect with Jonah, and you can have sessions with him. Now, let me also say something, Charles. It's not about what you pay, maybe in terms of finances or what you have to give for that attention to be given to you. It's about what you need. Focus on what you need from that person. And if you want to create a kind of accountability system that says once a month, Jonah or whoever it is, I want to sit with you and I want to have a 1 hour um, debriefing with you, and let's look at this roadmap, where we are, where we need to connect to. I think it's going to help you for number one, to stay on track, which is the main thing you asked, the first question. Now to the second question, which is around the framework. Jonah, could you help me with the second question? I'm
I
mixing it
didn't
in my
get the
head.
second question clearly, so maybe
Okay,
Charles,
Charles.
can you take the second question again? Charles, are you there?
Yes, Bobby. My second question was the kind of message that you can just unveil to us. Some of us who want to take their lives, people want to take their business the next level, to ensure that we create a balance between the future and the past, based on
Oh,
reflections, what has happened this year, especially with distress, discontent. We have had the coronavirus. So to have a future foresight that cannot alter the past.
good. So all of the things that have happened, thank you, Charles, for bringing that. All of the things that have happened have created an opportunity. And I like you to think from that perspective. Don't think from the perspective of issues that have arisen thanks to COVID, whatever it is, tensions in the world, poor governance in our society, whatever it is. They have all created a sense of opportunity for us. Now there's more opportunity in the world than ever. 2022 is coming with massive opportunities for those who have made themselves ready for that opportunity. And so it's going to be like a season of harvest for many people, those who have prepared themselves. For some people, it will not be a season of harvest. You need to sow more seed. And let me use the word, because when we say seed these days, the word is polarized. It's not just, I'm not saying whether you're a farmer, neither am I saying if you're a person of faith to go give to a pastor. I'm saying doing more of what you've been doing before. I talked about knowledge, understanding, and wisdom. Again, let me prefer to you, Charles, that you likely want to sit with someone, and I will recommend Jonah. You likely want to sit with someone to say, this is who I am. This is what I know that has happened to me upon my reflection. Now, this is what I'm trying to piece in for the coming year. How can I create that work-life balance, which doesn't really exist? It's not a conversation. People just have to go with all the tension right now. So how do I strike that balance across board for my finances? Because you want to do the wheel of life. The wheel of life covers your relationships, your career development, your health, and probably your faith or spirituality, a couple of areas of your life that you want to look at and say, how do I create a balance in these whole areas of my life? So I think when you sit with someone, you'll be able to, number one, harness the opportunities that have been created by all the tensions and by the reflection you have. Number two, you'll be able to create a roadmap. And number three, you'll be able to stay accountable. Thank you.
All right. I think it would be good. It would be nice to mention that I just connected with Charles this evening. Charles, or rather, Charles
Whoa.
connected with me this evening, and I invited him to join us there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you
So,
so
Charles,
much.
yeah, Charles, I hope we've been able to answer your question. Thank you for joining and for making our time to join us here tonight. Um, so, is there any other question? This is 12 minutes past the hour, and I think it's a good time to wrap up. Um, so, if there's any other question, let me just give out next 1, 2, 3 minutes or 30 to 60 seconds for anyone that wants to ask a question. Okay, while Bobby, you just prepare your final. Okay, there's a comment there. Okay, all right. Okay, I think from the feedback I'm getting from her, you can see that on the chat. It has been an interesting and an insightful session. So from me to you, Bobby, I want to say thank you for coming on board. But before we let you go, I want you to just conclude. Whatever it is, just conclude.
Good. So thank you. So I should give the pattern speech now. I feel like I should stand up, like
Exactly.
everybody should just
Exactly.
stand up, like stand up, prepare for the pattern speech. You know. All right. So this is my pattern word for you. Everything that you have learned, everything you've heard is doable in the coming year. And let me also mention the fact that I'm someone who is a strong proponent for change. I don't like staying in one place. And that doesn't mean that there are things that are not statutory in my life. are married to one biologically female wife. You know, these days you have to explain yourself over and over. So that's statutory. Those changes are not changing in my life. There are things, but when it comes to life being relevant and reinventing myself, I keep changing all the time. And I like it that regardless of where you are, this moment that people are feasting might be different for you. You might be feeling off at this point in time, that the world is just pinning you down, like you're choking out completely. You even don't have a clear roadmap for the coming year. It's okay. This is the beginning of more for you. Just relax, get back the session, listen, take this framework that I shared with you, and sit down, just shut down for some hours this night and really ask yourself certain questions. If you spend an hour or two asking those questions, I can bet you it's a guarantee that you'll come out with better clarity that can jumpstart your 2022. So thank you so much, Jonah, for having me. Thank you to the Aqueduct team. I look forward to a prosperous coming year and more possibilities with two of us doing more together. And thank you, Olalikon, for bringing this bridge and being the bridge between Jonah and I. I really appreciate it. Thank you, everyone, for the comments too. I really appreciate it. That's it.
Thank you very much, Bobby. Thank you. Now, as we always do, I will just do a recap of everything you've said. Basically, one thing that has come out clearly is one: enjoy the process. Basically, it's not always sweet. The process is not always sweet, but enjoy the process. There's one thing I've come to realize is that at the end of the day, there is always something to learn when you go through that process. It becomes part of your success story. Now remember to always reinvent yourself, reinvent and modify yourself, reinvent and modify yourself, reinvent and modify yourself. Capture opportunities. Do not let opportunities pass you by. Capture opportunities. Now, one other thing that we've silently said is when you talked about support system, please and please, sometimes we need support systems. Now, these support systems could be somebody you look up to that you think can really add value to you. It could be a mentor. It could be a group of persons that you can have conversations with that will actually add meaning to your life. Have support systems. Then Bobby also talked about personal strategy session, when you say you just lock down, do a self-reflection, and just think greatly. Now, these are that he also talked about. He also made mention of the fact that people matter. Now, I'm just trying to do a recap of all the nuggets and the points that you have made mention, and I think they are absolutely valuable. On a final note, I want to say that do not join the rat race, else you might just end up becoming a rat in the end. So from me to everyone here, I want to thank everyone that joined us. Indeed, I think it's just a good way to end the year. I think this is the most interesting session we've had this year. You can always go on our YouTube channel. Definitely, it's been recorded, and you can listen to it over and over again. I want to say thank you, Mr. Antonio Fodu, my senior man, Basi Daniels, Mr. Konya, Charles, Chika, Chioma, Chizom, Collins, Cynthia, Daniel, Ekperia Maka, Faith, Festus, Gospel, my senior man. I have a lot of people I respect that are on this call: Joseph Lugard, Tosin, Ruth, Ross, Roland, Pastor Amos, my senior pastor, Olufemi, Moses. Thank you very much for connecting us. Now, it's good for us to mention that this is the first time we're connecting. I think we just made a couple of weeks ago, and it's like we've been doing this for long. So thank you everyone for joining, and do have Merry Christmas, and do have a prosperous 2022. Thank you very much. All right.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.